So what happens when you only do, say, half your job? Well, if you're a AMD Ryzen processor, you confuse a lot of people. All right, so obviously there's a reason why I bring this up. This was Danny D. Now it's an empty case. I've taken everything out of Danny D, which was my small form factor that I took on the road with me. A lot of times when I would go to Ocala or I'd go somewhere else, I'd always throw this in the car, and it's been a great PC to do some editing on the road and try, gameplay and stuff like that. Set up pretty well. An MSI gaming AC, B450 gaming AC motherboard in it, ITX, with a Ryzen 7 1700X, 16 gig of G.Skill Ripjaws 5 memory, running at 3200 megabytes. I had a 500 gig, well, it's still hooked up to it, Samsung SSD, a 2 terabyte Western Digital WD Black 2 terabyte drive for the game drive. And I also carried a portable drive to put some extra games on and stuff like that. But I had a pretty decent setup, and I figured, okay, since things didn't work out too well when I was trying to move things over on my editing rig to Windows 11, I figured I would make Danny D be the lab rat, the guinea pig for this. So I was going to go ahead and run all my benchmarks, then go ahead and update to the new Windows or the Windows 11 ready, game ready drivers or whatever that NVIDIA has out. And then I was going to go ahead and make the switch to Windows 11. I ordered a TPM 2.0 module, and I was getting my show on the road. Well, then several things started to happen that were a little weird. I started doing all the Windows 10 benchmarks, the regular benchmarks. I didn't realize I had upgraded to the latest driver, which was fine because I could have at least just taken the Windows 11 or the Windows 10 scores with a new driver and compared them to the Windows 11 driver to see if there's any difference there, or if it was the driver that had made the difference like it did on the editing rig. So I noticed that many of my games weren't really hitting the benchmark very well. I mean, they were coming far short of what I thought they should have been. And the GPU usage, which is the GTX 1660, the GPU usage was only about 60 or 65% instead of maxing out. Even on, when I try to max out on high or ultra, it would never go above, say, 60, 65%, what I figured it should have been going closer to 100%. I also noticed that on things like Borderlands 3, I wasn't using more than 8 gig of memory, which I also thought was weird. So I thought, okay, maybe I've got a memory stick that's going bad. So I went back and I looked in the Windows settings, and I realized that it was only seeing 8 gig. And not only was it only seeing 8 gig, but it was giving me some weird frequency numbers, which I thought, okay, it didn't take the overclock that I put on. And I went back and I tried to redo it. And then during the course of that troubleshooting, she stopped working at all. And if I had 2 memory modules in, she wouldn't boot up. She would boot up with one or the other. If I put one stick or the other in the same slot closest to the CPU, she would work fine. However, if I put either one in the slot furthest from the CPU or both, she wouldn't boot. And I thought that was really strange. And I thought, okay, I've got a bad motherboard. And I figured that was the end of it. I was upset about it. I went ahead and that was the conclusion of that video the other day, and I was a little, I'm not going to say heartbroken, a little bit disappointed that I was going to have to now buy a new motherboard, but figured, you know what, okay, I can get a motherboard, I can update the CPU, I can go ahead and get better memory, I can do a lot of things and just kind of rebuild Danny D. I thought it was going to be a chance to upgrade things. And then kudos to Greg Salazar, who has a channel, and if you guys haven't seen it, I'll leave a link for it, but he does a series called Fix or Flop, where he takes computers from customers in the Central Florida area and tries to diagnose or fix their computer. Now he tries to mainly keep this Central Florida, or somebody can bring it to him. He doesn't want to do shipping or anything, and I don't blame him, because you never know when that could cause a problem back and forth that wasn't there to begin with. But if they're in the local Orlando area or can bring it to him, then he will go ahead and try to diagnose it and fix it for free. He gets paid for the advertising. He's really taking a high road here, not trying to double dip and trying to get somebody to pay for the repair when he can make money off the advertisement for doing the video. And really, it's a huge help to the community. And I believe it's an awesome idea, and they're great videos. And if you haven't watched them, do watch them. And I make reference to this, and thank you, Greg, if you happen to see this, because the video he did with the Ryzen 5 3600, a customer had a computer that would not turn on. Had a Ryzen 5 3600, so he had another Ryzen 5 3600. He tried his in there after doing some initial troubleshooting steps. He finally swapped out the CPU when he'd figured it was either CPU or motherboard. Swapped out the CPU and it worked. So for peace of mind, he put the customer CPU in his test bench and it worked. And after some head scratching and figuring back and forth, he realized that the computer sitting on the table had 2 sticks of memory, and then the one on his test bench only had 1 stick of memory. So he went back and he checked it again, and sure enough, it turns out the processor itself has a bad memory controller in the processor. Well, having gone through something very similar with the 1700X, I don't have another 1700X, but I've got a 1600 to try in it. So I swapped it out and I put the 1600 in the test bench we got here. And everything works fine. So I said that there's no way there can be another problem like that. I put the 1700X back in, and sure enough, the same problem. It will either won't start up, or when I do get it to start, it doesn't show the other memory. And it doesn't matter which module I put in. Both of them are good modules. It's the slot itself. It doesn't read that far slot. But when I go back to the 1600X like it is now, she works again. Lo and behold, benchmarks are fine. Everything's great. Memory usage is fine. And totally left scratching my head of how a CPU that you would figure it would either go completely dead or stay completely alive would fail partway and only have one part. In this case, evidently a memory controller that has gone bad. And if it hadn't been for Greg's video on that, I never would have even thought to check that. So thank you. Again, thank you very much. And I am going to leave a link down there. I encourage you guys to go watch that series. It's a really, really good series. But I am now presented with the fact that, okay, that 1700X is not going to work for what I need it for. Which is okay, because the TPM 2.0 module that I ordered for this motherboard, I ordered the wrong one. So, this gives me an opportunity. I can still probably use this B450. It's been a good board, evidently, now that I found out that it's not going bad on me. It's been a good board, and I'm going to go ahead and start doing some other things and maybe upgrade. The video card is fine. It's a GTX 1660. I don't think I need a more powerful video card in there, but it gives me an opportunity to go ahead and upgrade the memory. I can put we'll go ahead and put an NVMe drive and all that stuff and see what we can fit. Probably change out the power supply for a small SF power supply, and we'll go from there. But just strange and weird things are afoot. I mean, I don't know how to explain it other than that. The 1700X has decided that it does not want to do its full and complete job, and that only part of it is going to fail. So as strange as that is, and as strange as that may be, it does save me the money from buying another motherboard, fine, but now I have to go get another processor. Okay, yeah. But at least I know now, right? Anyway, I know it sounds strange. I know it's weird. I just figured I would go ahead and share this with you, especially because I had made a video on the failure itself and narrowed it down after a lot of troubleshooting, narrowed it down to the motherboard, and even showed how it wasn't working with the 2 sticks of memory in it, or wouldn't come on. And now that we have found another thing to troubleshoot, we find out that it's a CPU and not the motherboard causing the problem. Strange as that may sound, that's exactly what happened. So if you liked the video or found it helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Do definitely go check out Greg's channel. Very worth watching. If you didn't like the video for some reason, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. That's fine. Leave me any kind of comments. Have you ever run into a problem like that, or a weird problem that did I replace or reseat the CPU just to make sure that it wasn't a bad placement, or something hadn't come loose, or something hadn't come weird? All the pins are good. The CPU just, part of it gave out. So strange as that may be, that's what happened. And that's really, really confusing. Hours worth of confusion. Well, okay, for me, okay, hours might only be minutes for somebody else, but confusion nonetheless. So that's all I got for right now, folks. Until I start working on this again, I've got other videos going on and coming out and all that stuff, but we'll get back at this again later, and at least we know that 1700X is just decoration now. So until next time, I'll see you later.